The results from yesterday's poll came in, and this one came down almost to the wire. Welcome to the newest episode of SDW.
Super Dario World!
It's a me,
Dario!
Woohoo! Let's go!
This week's been rough, man. I've been fighting off a cold all week. Game of Thrones nearly killed me. My cell phone died, and I had to get a new one, which cost me every single one of my contacts. Why the fuck is it that when you get a new phone, you can't transfer your contacts from the other? I tried everything. I even went to the store several times. We could not get it to work. If anybody knows how to recover your old contacts, because I did a backup on my fucking computer, and still, I lost all my contacts. Or, you know what? If you have my phone number, just text me with your name, and I'll save you again. Because I gave up. I literally spent all day yesterday trying to do it, and I was feeling like crap already. Plus, I had a dog chase me, one of my neighbor's dogs. He has a pit bull, and I saw my life flash before my eyes. Imagine you're walking down the street, and out of nowhere, a fucking pit bull is running straight at you. Like, it crossed the street, ran straight at me, and in an aggressive fashion. It wasn't like, hey, oh, look, human, I'm going to go say hello. And it was like, oh, it's like, I'm going to kill you. And before you attack me, all you pit bull people, I'm not saying pit bulls are evil dogs or whatever. I'm saying that particular pit bull right there was not a very nice dog. And it was coming straight at me, and I just saw my life flash before my eyes. Fortunately, I know enough about dogs to know not to run, because, and here's a hot tip for everybody, if you run, it activates a dog's pursuit instinct, so it'll chase you for sure. If you run, it's guaranteed it's going to chase you, and that's when, if that instinct gets triggered, it might bite you. So I just had to stand still, hope it stopped before it got to me, or hope that I would be quick enough to jump out of the way and jump into one of my neighbor's cars. Fortunately, it did stop a few feet away, and that's when the neighbor came out and started yelling for it to come back and just let the dog back in. The dude didn't even say sorry, okay? The dude was just, he yelled at the dog, let the dog back in, and not even a, sorry, whoops, my bad. No, nothing. Dude didn't give a fuck. Screw that guy. I'm going to have to get back at him somehow. Or, I don't know. I don't care. I mean, he has a pit bull, so it's probably not good to mess with him. Anyway, needless to say, it's been a rough week, but it's Friday now. I have a poll ready. I know what I'm going to talk about, and it's going to be a long weekend. I'm looking forward to. I have a lot of stuff that's going on. I just got informed that I'm going to have some. Let me see this. Let me read this again. Corn with Alice in Chains tickets to give away for when I go out and do Bombed at the Beach. What? Dude, this is honestly the biggest prize they've given me, because sometimes when I go out and do Bombed at the Beach, for those of you who don't know, I do Bombed at the Beach for the morning radio show here in rock1053.com called The Show. We play a game called Bombed at the Beach where I go out and ask basic trivia to drunk people. It's a lot of fun. And usually they give me one or two prizes like movie tickets or fair tickets or stuff. Anything, to incentivize people to be a part of the game. Usually they want to do it. Drunks love it, but I want to give them a little extra. I feel like it just, I don't know, I feel like it makes it more exciting for them, because before it's just like, oh, this weird dude who's talking to me and may or may not be a real thing, versus, oh, I'm getting a prize? This is great. This is fun. So it changes their attitude a lot. Anyway, this is the biggest prize they've given me. Corn with Alice in Chains tickets. I might keep some of these. No joke. This is too big. This is too awesome. Yeah. And they gave me a bunch, so I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet, but I got to do something big. I mean, Corn and Alice in Chains tickets. Give me, I have like this thing's till September, so I can even spread these out. Man, I might, because, I got to think of something good. Any suggestions, hit me up at Dario the Show on Instagram. Ooh, man, so many things I want to do with these. Okay, so hit me up with ideas or any good events that are happening in San Diego soon, and I'll probably do it there. I don't know yet. I don't know. I'm getting ahead of myself. Anyway, way too ahead of myself. Let me give you a quick reminder. The podcast is now officially part of the iHeartRadio network. It's a part of the show's podcast network. You can always find it at the iHeartRadio app. Just type in The Show Presents, click on Super Dario World, or just type in Super Dario World in the podcast section, and you'll find it right there. If you can't find it there, go to the Rock 1053 page, rock1053.com, click on the podcast tab, and there you'll find it right there, or you can find it on the Follow Along with the Show tab. I do a daily article right there as well. Also, You can still find it on SoundCloud and YouTube. Just type in Super Dario World Podcast. However, I will be transitioning out of that one pretty soon. I'm just waiting for iTunes to authorize the show presents Super Dario World, and I will slowly transfer out of Super Dario World Podcast. I know it's a pain. I know it's a headache, but I will be giving you enough notice, and we'll try to make this as easy as possible for you guys. As I mentioned before, you can follow me on Instagram at Dario the Show. This poll was basically gotten off Instagram. I had some few people message me on Facebook, and I had a few people message me elsewhere, but it was mainly done on Instagram. So most of this results came from the Instagram poll. So again, this came from your votes. This is not my poll. I mean, it's my poll, but these are not my opinions. I'll just give you my opinions on the results of the poll that I put up yesterday on my Instagram. So any comments, questions, or suggestions, hit me up there. And like I said, let me know of any events that are happening nearby in town that I could really do a kick-ass bomb at the beach and put these tickets to good use. But okay, let's game. So the question that I put up yesterday on my Instagram is, what PlayStation exclusive would you most like to see turn into either a movie or a TV show? Now, I got a lot of people voting for 2 franchises, and I don't think you understand how polls work. So I just stuck with the first one you mentioned, because otherwise it's cheating. So heads up, if you voted for 2, your vote only counted for the very first one, because that's how polls work. Anyway, so I mentioned 9 titles in my poll yesterday. I gave you 9 options. And somebody voted in, I need to get this one out of the way, because somebody said that the Metal Gear franchise, they would love to see it. The reason why I did not include that one in this poll is because it's no longer a PlayStation exclusive. And the reason I put up that poll is because PlayStation announced that they're doing their own film studio, and they're going to start with PlayStation exclusives, which Metal Gear no longer is. So it was not considered. Only PlayStation exclusives were considered for this list. Okay? So I'll start with the very last one. Let's start with number 9. Here we have Infamous Second Son, and with 0% of the vote. This one's sad. This one was shocking, actually, because out of all the... Well, for those of you who don't know about the Infamous franchise, it's basically a dude with superpowers who's running away from a government agency that hunts people down. It's like a mutant story. It's like a superhero video game, right? In a way, it's closer to a mutant video game. Anyway, the reason why I find this one shocking, it's because it's probably going to be the most likely to get made, particularly into a TV show, because everybody and their mother is making their own superhero things. Amazon's making one, Hulu's making one, Netflix is making one. So I wouldn't be shocked if PlayStation wanted to start there, because right now there's a market for the superhero stuff. So I think that this one is the most likely to get made out of all of them, to be honest. But shockingly, no votes. 0 votes. I guess there's no Infamous people here. And I mean, I didn't really care much for it either. But I think that as a TV show or a movie, it's very likely. Anyway, let's move on to number 8. Here we have, with less than 1% of the vote, Until Dawn. Now, for those of you who've never played the game, it's a horror game where basically you're 8 friends who are trapped together in a remote mountain, and they aren't alone. That's how they describe it. Anyway, the thing about this game is it's actually a pretty decent horror game. It's pretty good. The horror stuff, the jump scares, it's kind of different. It tries to change the genre on its head a little, but it's really good. It's scary. That's what it counts, honestly. So a horror movie, or somebody even suggested a horror anthology series, is not completely crazy. It would actually be pretty decent if you're into horror stuff. And I love horror movies. I prefer thrillers, to be honest. I prefer psychological thrillers, just thrillers in general, over horror. But I enjoy a good horror flick. Horror video games, not so much. That whole feeling of being tense for so long is not really my jam. When I play video games, I want to relax a little bit more. I want to enjoy the experience. And 100 hours of gameplay where I'm just tense, it doesn't sound that fun to me. However, if I have to pick the most fun horror game that I played, is probably Alien Isolation. Because imagine you're in a ship where an alien, the xenomorph, Alien from the Alien franchise, is loose. And you're kind of just trying to survive. It's fantastic. It's been my favorite one so far, but that has really nothing to do with Until Dawn. But if you're into horror games, I recommend that one. I think you'll enjoy it, and honestly, it wouldn't be a bad B horror movie. It would be pretty good. Anyway, let's move on to number 7. Here we have, with 2% of the vote, Horizon Zero Dawn. Now, this one will be interesting. For those of you who don't know Horizon Zero Dawn, imagine a post-apocalyptic world where it's way, way into the post-apocalyptic world, and humans have kind of reverted to hunter-gatherers. And this is a story of a hunter who basically hunts giant robot animals. And so humanity has devolved into hunter-gatherers, but the wildlife that we hunt now is robots because we use their power cores. And the robots don't like us very much. But okay, so that's kind of the premise. And I think this would be fantastic. It would be. The game's beautiful. It's beautiful to look at. Visually, it's fantastic. The story's pretty good. And I think this would actually make a great film. It's a very different spin on the post-apocalyptic world. Because, I mean, who doesn't like a good post-apocalyptic movie? Especially when it has something to do with machines. But it's not going to be all the world's destroyed and everything sucks post-apocalypse. It's going to be way into the future when nature has taken back most of the planet. And there's a few wild machines running around, hunting us down while we're hunting them. It's a pretty interesting premise. I think it'd make a great movie. It'd be expensive as fuck, though. It would be really expensive. It would be mostly CGI. But I think you could get something pretty decent out of it. So, shame. It only got 2% of the vote, though. So, okay, let's move on to number 6. Here we have, with 3% of the vote, Bloodborne. And for those of you who've never played this, it's created by the same developers who made the Dark Souls franchise. And for those of you who are going to ask, why didn't you put Sekiro in here? It might be a better story. It would be cool to see something with samurais or with ninjas, blah, blah, blah. I agree, it would be cool, but Sekiro is not a PlayStation exclusive. That's why I couldn't put it on this list. And I would also love to see Ghost of Tsushima, but it hasn't come out yet, so I can't put it on this list. So, sorry. Anyway, sticking with Bloodborne, for those of you who haven't played the game, the story is about a hunter who's traveling around a Victorian-era inspired, kind of decrepit, gothic-y like town. It's a fake town called Yarnum. I think that's how you say it. Anyway, the inhabitants of this town have been infected with a bloodborne disease, and you have to travel around the city, dealing with monsters, fighting beasts, and I'm trying to ultimately figure out the source of the plague and stopping it. So, I think that this would make an awesome TV show. It would make probably a better anime, but it would make a great TV show. You know, you're a guy who's trying to solve the mystery of this plague, kind of, like, it could have, like, a zombie spin. Imagine Angel, if you ever watched Angel, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, stuff like that, because we've seen shows like this before. I think it would be great. It's a great story. It's really creepy, so it would be like a horror kind of show. So I think it could be a lot of fun, but unfortunately only 3% of the vote. So let's move on to number 5. Oh, wait, let me do a quick recap. So far we have Infamous Second Son, 0 votes. Until Dawn, less than 1%. By the way, I'm rounding up. It just makes things easier. We have Horizon Zero Dawn with 2%, and Bloodborne as number 6 with 3% of the vote. So let's move on to the top 5. So here we have number 5 with 5% of the vote. And this one's sad. This one's really sad for me. But we have Shadow of the Colossus. Only 5%. Only 5%. And for those of you who asked, why didn't I put The Last Guardian up here? I had to pick between one and the other, and honestly, this is the better story, so that's why I went with, because they're very similar in gameplay and style, so I went with Shadow of the Colossus. This is one of the greatest stories in video game. It's one of the greatest video games out there. It's a masterpiece. I've called this game a masterpiece before. I'll call it again. I love this game. It's fantastic, and I know it came out for, I think, the PS2 originally, but they remade it for the PS4, and they just made it look better, so it's fantastic, and it counts as a PS4 exclusive. That's why I put it on this list. Anyway, the story is about a guy who basically the love of his life dies, so he travels to a land of the gods where it's forbidden for them to go, and he tries to leverage the god of death into bringing back the love of his life. So basically what you have to do is you have to, the god says you have to unseal my power, which means that you have to destroy a few colossi that are in this land. So those are the only enemies in the game. The game is fantastic. The story is beautiful. It's visually it's fantastic. The gameplay is amazing, and the story is top notch. I can't recommend this game enough. I'm very, very sad that only 5% of you want to see this story be made into a TV show or a movie. I honestly think it could be the best one out of them all, because it's short enough that you could just stick to like the meat of it and still get the best out of it. I don't know. It could be kind of rushed. I think it'd be a good TV show. Imagine one colossi per episode. It'd be great. I'd be into it. So I don't know. This is sad. 5%. Shame on you. Shame on you, voters. But anyway, I mean, I guess I get it, because there are some pretty legit stories on this list. But anyway, let's move on to number 4. Here we have, with 6% of the vote, so beating Shadow of the Colossus by 1%, we have Detroit Become Human. And this is actually considered a fantastic storytelling game, because you get to pick options and all that stuff. It's a great narrative game. I think that's the way to describe it. Anyway, the plot for the game is it's the year 2038, and you play with 3 androids, 3 different stories from 3 different perspectives. And the thing they have in common is that they all manage to break their programming and become free. So it is a very, very interesting world that you could use to make this movie. If you think about it, it kind of sounds a lot like Blade Runner, and I would not hate it. Honestly, I think a futuristic Detroit with kind of a Blade Runner type story would be great. I mean, we've seen this before in a way, but I wouldn't hate seeing it again. The story is supposed to be fantastic. It's really good. And you get more protagonists. You could follow one movie, could follow each one, and they could be intertwined. It could be a pretty interesting trilogy. If done right, I think it could be great. So, I don't know. Food for thought. I think it was actually a pretty decent option. But honestly, this list was a race between 3 horses. And if we're being really honest, it was a race between 2. But let's move on to the top 3. Here we have, with another shocking turn of events, 17%. 17% is not bad. I mean, number 4 had 6%. Number 3 has 17%. But here we have the Uncharted series, which is stunning. Honestly, I expect it to be way more votes in the Uncharted series, because the games are basically a movie already. It's set up perfectly for an awesome action-adventure series. The main character obviously has to be Nathan Fillion. There's no other option. I mean, he might be a little bit too old now, but Nathan Fillion would have been perfect to play Nathan Drake. It's an iconic franchise. I think every single game has been extremely well received. The story is basically, imagine a treasure hunter going out there trying to uncover mythical treasures and going through adventures every single time. Imagine a modern day or a more modern new school Indiana Jones. That's how I would describe Nathan Drake, the protagonist, as a new school Indiana Jones. And his adventures kind of along the same path, except he kills way more people. He's way deadlier. He's way deadlier than Indy. But again, shocked. Oh, well, not shocked that it came in as number 3. Shocked that it only got 17%, though. I thought it'd be a little bit high. I thought it would be a little bit more competitive, but it wasn't. So let's move on to number 2. Here we have another of my favorite video games of all time. One of the best, saddest stories I've played in a really long time. This game is the one that actually made me fall back in love with video games, because I was kind of starting to get out of it, and this one pulled me back in. You know, I was out, and it pulled me back in. With 32% of the vote, we have The Last of Us. Now, like I said, this was a 2-horse race, and it was neck and neck almost all the way till the end. The Last of Us is, how to explain it? Post-apocalyptic world. There's a zombie apocalypse. And this is the story of a girl who, for some reason, is immune to the zombie disease. And a guy who, by pure bad luck, gets charged to delivering her to a place where they might be able to do something about it. So, it's a great story. It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. A lot of people were saying that this would make a pretty good TV show. I guess I could see it because of The Walking Dead. Honestly, it's the closest thing that I could relate it to. But I don't think so. I think this is actually it's a short story. I think you could condense it even more so that you could just, but I don't know. You don't want to skip some of those best parts. No, I think you might actually break this down into a couple of movies, and the second game will be coming out soon. It's one of the games that I'm expecting the most. I can't wait. I'm hoping that at E3 they announce something for this game, or at least show us a little something, give us a little something, a little morsel. Anyway, TV show or movie? Okay, so TV show, you can develop the story a little bit more, but I feel like this story is short enough. It's closed off enough that you could do it in a single movie. I don't know. You know what? I'm going to stick with movie. I think this would make a beautiful movie. They've been working on this one for years. So far, nothing has come out of it. I think freaking Hugh Jackman would have made a great Joel. That's the main character. Well, the main male character. Ellen Page is identical. I think they flat out ripped off Ellen Page's look for the main female character, Ellie, but she's too old for that now. So I don't know, but I think Hugh Jackman would make a great Joel. And actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, I know why Hugh Jackman. It's because Logan, the movie Logan, the last Wolverine movie, has a lot of The Last of Us in it. And I mean a lot. They took a lot from that movie. It's Logan is, imagine if The Last of Us and Unforgiven, Clint Eastwood's Unforgiven, had a baby, and sprinkle a little bit of Children of Man in it. Just a tad of Children of Man in it. So, yeah, that's why I was thinking that. So, it's still, he'd be great in it. So, if you like Logan, imagine kind of a similar premise, only no superpowers and zombies. So, I mean, I think that's fair. Is that fair? Anyway, this would be my number one. But again, it's one of my favorite video games of all time. But okay, that was number 2 with 32% of the vote, The Last of Us. What came as number 1? Here we have, with 34% of the vote, it was neck and neck, man. I can't do the last few votes is the ones that decided the whole thing. 32% of the vote. Number 1 we have God of War. And I mean, I can't really argue this one. Personally, I would prefer another story, but the story of Kratos is fantastic. It's basically, the original God of War is the story of a Spartan warrior who kind of makes a deal with the God of War to defeat his enemies. And the God of War kind of messes him up, and he ends up killing his family. And, okay, so he gets tricked, and so he decides, you know what, vengeance, Ares, you son of a bitch. And so that's his story. And it evolves from there. I'm not going to spoil anything for you, even though it's been, over a decade since it came out, but still, I don't like doing spoilers that way. So the story of this character, Kratos is a super interesting guy, has a lot of anger issues, but super interesting guy. His travels all across the Greek gods. I mean, we've seen similar movies about men taking on gods. Clash of the Titans comes to mind. So it would be great just to see a story of pure out vengeance between a human against gods. It would be really good. It would be really cool. Yeah, this couldn't be a TV show. This has to be a movie. I mean, a TV show would be great. Honestly, again, probably would make a better anime, but it would be a great TV show. Imagine every single episode he's taken on a different god. Ooh, it'd be great. Or each season he takes on, the clique of a particular god. It would be really good. There's a lot of things you could do here. Greek mythology, Norse mythology are so rich. There's so much you could do. Again, it would be a lot of CGI, but it would be a lot of fun to watch, so I can't really argue it. Personally, if I have to make this personal, this is a Dario list. I would have Last of Us number 1, Shadow of the Colossus number 2, God of War number 3, and Uncharted number 4. But that's just personal choice. Could be wrong. It's like, if I had to vote, that's how I would have voted. Yeah. Let me think. What would be number 5? Number 5, probably Horizon Zero Dawn. I think the story is super original, and there's a lot you could do with that universe. 6, probably Bloodborne. Like I said, it could be really creepy. It could be an interesting series. I would prefer that one as a TV show. Detroit Become Human would be number 6. Am I right? No, number 7. It would be number 7 because we already have Blade Runner, and I don't see this one topping the last Blade Runner. The last Blade Runner is a super underrated movie. It was fantastic. I loved it. So while this one could be great, I don't see it beating Blade Runner. So that's why it dropped a little. That's why my excitement level dropped a little for that one. Number 8, I would have the Until Dawn, like an anthology series. Like if they do an anthology series, kind of flipping the horror genre in its head in a different way in every episode, that could be a lot of fun. And last, I would keep Infamous Second Son. Even still, I think it's the most likely to be made, but I would keep Infamous Second Son as all the way at the bottom, just because I think there's like kind of like a superhero overload right now. We have a little bit of a superhero hangover, at least the audience. I don't think that the studios have figured that out yet, but I think audiences are like, you know what? I'm good right now. I need a little break. I need a little breather. There's too much out there. There's too many things to watch. I'm good right now. But anyway, those are the results of the poll. Let me just recap them real quick for you. At number 9, we have, with 0% of the votes, Infamous Second Son. Number 8, Until Dawn, with 1% of the vote. Horizon Zero Dawn, with 2% of the vote. Number 6, Bloodborne, with 3% of the vote. Number 5, Shadow of the Colossus, with 5% of the vote. Number 4, Detroit Become Human, with 6% of the vote. Number 3, the Uncharted series, with 17% of the vote. And number 2, The Last of Us, with 32% of the vote. And God of War as number 1, with 34% of the vote. Honestly, neck and neck, those two. Neck and neck, it's fine. Honestly, either one would be great. I'm not even going to fight it. Those two would be fantastic. Great franchises. I mean, it's weird because God of War has 4 games and Last of Us only has 1, and everybody's just itching for number 2. We're itching. If you haven't played that game, I highly recommend it. God of War, it's a pretty straight game, just a hack slasher. It's a lot of fun. Don't get me wrong. It's a lot of fun to destroy, and the fatalities that he does is fantastic. But a little bit more in-depth, deeper story. Honestly, I think it was a landmark in video games. That's what a friend of mine described it as, art. That game is just a piece of art. And I was like, dude, all games are technically a piece of art. I mean, just combine different time. You combine music with visual. Like, no. Art. That's, there's a lot of critiques over it. There's a lot of critiques over the gameplay and stuff like that. To me, the story is good enough that it really brings you in it. So my recommendation out of that list would be The Last of Us. If you haven't played it, I highly recommend it. It is a fantastic story. You'll have a great time. But all the games in that list have a great story. PlayStation has been kicking Xbox's ass this generation when it comes to exclusives, and it doesn't look like it's going to be letting up. So, Xbox really needs to step it up, because in the exclusives world, the exclusives realm, PlayStation's got the edge, I think. No, you know what? I don't think. I'm pretty sure PlayStation is it's handily beating the Xbox, and by far. Anyway, that's it for today. That's it for this week. That's it. I'm done. I'm burned out. My throat is killing me. I need a break today, but I need a break for the weekend, which is not going to happen, but whatever. I'll power through. I'll be back on Monday. The show's off on Monday, but I'll be back. I'm here in studio. I'm running stuff. I'm not sure what I'm going to talk about yet. I may do my Game of Thrones alternate, like how I would have done it. I'm not sure yet. I still need a break. So I'm still a little burned out in Game of Thrones. I'm still pissed. So I may give it another week, but I don't know. I'll see what's up. I might just do Super Dario news. I don't know. Right now, like I said, I'm exhausted. My brain's exhausted right now. I need a break. So hopefully you have a great weekend. Any comments, questions, or suggestions, always hit me up at Dario the Show on Instagram. Easiest way to contact me is right there. For those of you who I hadn't replied yet to your stuff, I'm sorry. I had a lot of cell phone issues. But a cell phone was just turning off out of nowhere. It just kept rebooting all the time, and it's really annoying. So finally, got a new phone. All that's fixed. So hopefully I need to heal up, and I'll be fixed too, and everything will be ready to go. And I just realized this yesterday. I've done 30 episodes of this. This is episode 31. It went by fast, man. Really fast. And honestly, most of it has been shaped up because of your feedback. So I appreciate all your help. I appreciate everybody listening. And like I said before, I hope you have a great weekend, and I'll see you again on Monday.